Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lounge. Today's video is going to be a step away from the recent pickup videos, which I was mostly using as a way to kind of kick the channel off for a bit, to kind of at least get people used to what I'm usually getting, and so far in this channel, what I'm grabbing, all the sort of cool little issues and cool little keys, whatever, just cool stuff that I'm been grabbing. But I've been having this idea on my mind for a while now, but I'm finally getting around to getting to it, and that is the first cover appearances. Now, for this one, when it comes to, let's say, like first cover appearances, they're going to be different from, let's say, your first appearance. And so while here and there, you'll definitely get a first cover appearance along with their first appearance, but sometimes they're usually going to be either their second appearance, their third, or maybe even their 20th or 50th appearance when you'll finally get their first cover appearance. Now, for this particular episode, I'm mostly going to be focusing on Marvel Comics only. There's no DC, and there's no independent ones. So, for the most part, if I were to include any of these sort of, let's say, companies, publishers, it's going to take up an entire video. It'll be an hour long. So I think it's better for now to focus on Marvel, and eventually at a later time I will get to DC. So before I get into any of these sort of comics, and I've got a selection, and it's a hefty one. These are all from my personal collection as it is, so that's what I'm sticking with. And so I will see you after this. When it comes to first cover appearances / first appearances, these are the most obvious ones, like AFL or AF number 15. Again, it's so obvious. First appearance of Spider-Man / Peter Parker. It's just a great Steve Ditko cover, but this was how anybody would have seen Spider-Man in general. Was again for Amazing Fantasy number 15. So this was everybody's introduction to the character, basically first impressions. So this was it, and hey, it's an iconic one, and the original goes for it's a ridiculous amount of money. So this, of course, is an obvious one. And speaking of some other obvious ones, but especially being Spider-Man related, we of course have ASM 129. Very first appearance of the Punisher, just again, Gil Kane and John Romita Sr. But again, his first cover appearance is his first appearance. Now, how about New Mutants number 87? Not only the first appearance for Cable, but again, first cover appearance. So this was everybody's sort of first impression of the character on the cover. Again, all brought to you by Rob Liefeld and inker Todd McFarlane. And again, this is the second print, not a first, but still, it's worthy of showing. But some of these at least have gotten their live action debut. How about let's get into an obvious one that has not yet been featured in live action form. Let's talk about another X-Men character, Omega Red. So everyone knows this would be their, his very first appearance. By the way, this is an original, not a reprint. So normally, this is considered the first appearance for Omega Red. Some have tried to debate that this would be the first cover appearance for Omega Red just because of his hand, but that's mostly is considered a cameo. I claim this as a cameo because really the first full cover appearance for Omega Red is the following issue. That is number 5. Again, it's a great cover, him battling with Wolverine. It's just Jim Lee at his finest with this one. And obviously, this was what he used to really get kicking off the other sort of volume, whatever, of X-Men, the other series that obviously would be just as popular as the more main series that was at this point was under Uncanny X-Men. So this was definitely pretty much the first ever cover appearance for Omega Red. So anyone who'd be walking through the comic shop looking through the new releases, obviously they were going to see this, and this was obviously going to trap in that customer, and is obviously going to have him or her pick up a copy of X-Men number 5. So there it is. Now this one's not so obvious, but it's been gaining ground very recently here and there for over the few years and so on. But we're talking about, let's say, Firestar. And obviously her first appearance, because she was originally being in like the Spider-Man and Friends cartoon, but for the one-shot comic, they put on the cover. And so not only is this her very first appearance in comic book, but it's her very first cover appearance. Again, Spider-Man and Friends number 1, and this is a genuine original because it's a newsstand edition. So this obviously has been in the collection for years and years and years. Obviously it was my dad's, but here I have it. Yeah, obviously is worth mentioning. It is definitely a cool book, and it's been gaining some ground here and there, and especially within speculators or whatever, as far as when it comes to a grading and so on. So there you have it. Spider-Man Friends with Firestar first cover. I know eventually she would make her own continuity appearance in a later comic, but that will forever be her first cover appearance. So first appearance along with the first cover. Let's get into something that would be considered a first cover / second appearance. And so this is one that's been getting more speculation due to the MCU with, let's say, either Avengers Doomsday or maybe possibly Avengers Secret Wars, but I've been hearing it for Avengers Doomsday. But we're talking about the Maestro. And so his first appearance was a part of the sort of 2-part mini comic, The Incredible Hulk featuring Perfect. So here it is, his very first appearance for the character. Again, great George Perez artwork, but his very first cover appearance wouldn't be until the final part in this mini, and that's again number 2. So there he is in all of his glory, the Maestro, who was like a alternate sort of future whatever version of the Incredible Hulk. And there's been speculation of him possibly being put in the next Avengers film. There's been speculation for the character, especially being in the MCU. And I've been hearing some rumors that it's going to be a older Hulk actor. I wonder who that would be. So that's what's been going on. So there's definitely some speculation and everything surrounding future Imperfect with the Maestro. And so for the video, his first cover appearance obviously had to be in this one. Now, remember I was alluding to at the very beginning of the video that a first cover appearance is going to be a much, much later appearance in the issues? Way past their first appearance? Let's talk about Calypso. Now, Calypso, of course, I got it written down so I don't forget it. She made her very first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 209 in 1980. And most recently, she just saw her first live-action debut in the Kraven the Hunter movie played by Ariana DeBose. However, her first cover appearance is going to be the most unlikely comic book title you'll ever think of. 10 years past her first appearance, she'd make her first cover appearance on Daredevil 310. This really blew my mind when I found out that this was her first cover appearance. I thought it would have been also one of the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man issues, so part of the Torment. But no, this is her first cover appearance, drawn by the very underrated Scott McDaniel. I think was a great artist to begin with. But this was her first, so 1992. 10 years past 1980. So if you're ever trying to find her first cover appearance and you're thinking of Amazing Spider-Man, stop and re-look and go to the Daredevil comic book section, whatever. What would be the box that's contain Daredevil titles and look through there, and there might be a possibility that you're going to come across a copy of 310. This is your first cover appearance, and it's an insane cover, by the way. It's crazy. Just Scott McDaniel at his most finest here. Now, speaking of Daredevil, here's a character who finally made their live-action debut. And it's also obviously from the most recent season of Daredevil, that being Born Again. And I'm talking about the character Buck Cashman, who, of course, in the series was being played by Artie Frausen, whatever. His, of course, that character in name, whatever. He goes by the name The Bullet in the comics. And his very first appearance is also his first cover appearance. And that is Daredevil 250. How do we look? Again, drawn by John Romita Jr. here this time. So I've already mentioned and showed John Romita Sr. Here's Jr. and this is the first appearance and first cover appearance for Buck Cashman / The Bullet. And so it's really awesome that this character finally made their debut in the MCU. And again, this is one I've had for at least several months now. Found it here in the Cowie in the Gaming Zone here in Susanville. And again, because it still is in the same board, so I paid like $5 for it. But again, this is first appearance, first cover appearance for The Bullet / Buck Cashman. So this is definitely a really cool one and tied as well to the MCU right now. Now here's one that's going to be a fascinating one. Since obviously Avengers Secret Wars is on the cusp of within 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years from now. From what I've found out, what it's been at least been speculated and so on is what are the characters they're going to be put in the movie and what inspiration they're taking from. Of course, it's been already been now announced that they're going to take inspiration from both the original Secret Wars and the more modern Secret Wars comic titles. And so that comes down to characters. Now, there were some first appearances in the Secret Wars, besides, let's say, the cameo, whatever, of the Beyonder. And so since I already showed these two issues, at least this one particular issue, most recently, because this was a very recent buy within, weeks ago or so. But that is, of course, we're talking about Secret Wars issue number 3, and this would be the first appearance for, since I have it rewritten down, I think it was the second Titania, Mary McPherson, and Volcana, Marsha Rosenberg. So this would be their very first appearance. However, their first cover appearance wouldn't be until issue number 6 in the series. And so there they are right here. That'd be Titania and Volcana right there. So this would be their first cover appearance on the one, again, Bob Layton with all the villains on it. And what makes this even crazier is their first cover appearance is on the same issue. That's the cameo for the Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman. Really awesome there. So there you have it. Volcana and Titania, their first cover appearance on Secret Wars issue number 6. Now here's a character that I would love to see in the MCU, since I've been talking about Ghost Riders. This is one I've always had a love for ever since I ever had the action figure from the Marvel Legends line back in the mid-2000s. But that is Vengeance. Now, his first appearance, of course, is this issue right here, which is, again, Ghost Rider and Blaze, Spirit of Vengeance number 9. But you only get the back of him, though, on this issue. So this might be considered a first cover / first appearance, but his first full cover appearance in all of his glory is the next issue. That is number 10. And god damn, is that amazing. Again, brought to you all by Adam Kubert, and oh boy, it is amazing. These are just 2 amazing covers, by the way. These are great, and the thing is, these are very cheap to find these days, but damn it, if you ever were to find these out in the wild, grab them, they're worth it. Just because of how awesome the covers are. And I always thought that Vengeance was a criminally underrated character for Marvel. So, a very underrated Ghost Rider. Love to see him. in live action. Speaking of a character who is, this is going to be probably one of the more other obscure characters, but there's one character that is obscure that has kind of made some resurgence here and there, but not too much. But he's a very unique and very just off the wall character, and that's Terror. And so it's with Terror Inc. And so pretty much this is his first cover appearance, even though the character made his very first appearance in St. George #2 as Shrek. However, he wouldn't appear as Terror until Daredevil number 305. And again, from 1992. And so, but after that, he'd make this might be his overall third appearance, but it's his very first appearance, and it came with his own solo title for his own sort of solo series that ran for maybe 12, 10, 20 issues or something like that. It wasn't very much, but here we have it. Very, very, very odd character, but he was so unique, so different that I think he obviously should have at least be somewhat featured in maybe Daredevil Born Again, or maybe they should put him in. He's a very unique character, but this was his first ever cover appearance, so as I thought needed to mention. Now, this is a character has also been kind of been seen around mostly within collectors, and that's this is going to be the only Punisher solo title comic that's going to be in here. And so we're talking about the character Lynn Michaels, who was a cop, and eventually would later turn into a Punisher. Well, she made her very first appearance with Punisher Warzone #7, drawn by John Romita Jr. However, her first cover appearance wouldn't be until a year later during the Suicide Run story, Part 4, Punisher War Journal #62. Again, drawn by Michael Golden. A very, very cool cover, by the way, and a very underrated character, and also a great story, by the way. This is definitely up there for me, one of my favorite Punisher stories, and it spanned from within this, the main solo series, and Warzone. But this would be her first cover appearance, also in a Punisher uniform. So this also might be considered her first as the Punisher, and it's her main solo story as well. So it's definitely got some fun, cool ones there. There you go. Punisher War Journal #62, Lynn Michaels' first cover appearance. Lastly, this might be the most obscure character that I'm going to show you. So, back in just to get this correct, I think like 1976 or 77, Bill Mantlo, who was the writer for Spider-Man at the time, introduced a character into the annual number 10, okay? Amazing Spider-Man annual number 10, named the Human Fly. And of course, but his name would be Richard Deacon, okay? This is the Richard Deacon Human Fly. He made his first appearance, and it'll be a first cover appearance, by the way, and you're looking at it anyways. But this would kind of be, I think, the character's last appearance for a very long time, because eventually after this, after being inspired by the Canadian stuntman Rick Rojat, or Rohat, whatever how to pronounce his last name, he decided to come up with a superhero version of the Human Fly, because the Richard Deacon was more of a villain in that first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man annual number 10. And so he wanted to do the superhero, being inspired by that Canadian stuntman. Instead of having him appear in another Spider-Man issue, instead, he wanted to have him first appear in his first ever series. And that is the Human Fly #1. And so this would be the first appearance and first cover appearance for his first ever solo title. And this would run for like close to maybe 20 issues or so for this title. This is right here. And it's a very cool title nonetheless, very obscure, very odd in some cases, but this would be. Now, of course, Spider-Man would at least appear in this issue. So this obviously deserved some sort of recognition, and I think it definitely deserves some sort of more at least some sort of eyes and a more talk and everything on this one. I think it deserves some sort of a buzz for this character. So always at least look out for human fly tiles. And by the way, there's a first meaning within the human fly that still was very relevant due to the Daredevil Born Again. So that is, though, for a much different video. But eventually, I'll show it. There you go, folks. A little long, but I wanted to get through these. These are, again, some of my sort of favorite whatever from my collection of first cover appearances, and some of these are definitely ones that don't seem to get a whole lot of buzz. Some of them do already. There's a few I showed that already do get buzzes, but there are some I think deserve some time, and thankfully might be getting some sort of buzz already. So there you have it. If you have any sort of thoughts on any of the stuff that I just showed you, any of the first cover appearances, if you have any favorite sort of first cover appearances, leave them all in the comments section below. So if you like anything that I show on this channel, if you like my enthusiasm, you just like my personality and everything, always hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss out on new content. So with that, I might end up being back with another recent pickups video, but until then, please keep on hunting, keep on collecting, and keep on reading comic books, everybody. Take care.